I call a regular meeting of council to order for Monday, November 3rd. Before approval of the agenda, there's a late item that was left on council's wicket. I'm going to put a motion on the floor that we consider adding the item Health Task Force Committee recommendation locum dinners report to be added to the agenda as item 9.6. If I can get a seconder. Councillor Noxana, discussion. So I attended the Health Care Task Force Committee on last Thursday. Agenda was already approved with myself and Ms. Scott. This came up at that meeting. I think it's very important to get it out in front of council. We have locums that are coming to our community. One locum, this will be the fourth time coming back, is feeling that he's not connected, and I think we're missing an opportunity where we can go out and have a face-to-face lunch or whatever with the locum, find out the interest that they have and try to connect them with other groups within our community. So that's why I think this is important to do, especially when I heard this locum is the fourth time returning this week and doesn't feel that he's connected with anything within the community. We could miss an opportunity where maybe these locums stop coming if they're not getting connected. So I think it's important. I'm going to call the question for adding it. All in favor? Carried. So it'll be added as 9.6. Take approval of the amended agenda, please. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. That the November 3rd, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as amended.
Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes for October 20th, 2025, regular meeting of council minutes. Councillor Noxana.
That the October 20th, 2025 regular meeting of council minutes be approved as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Dussault. Any errors or omissions from council? Staff?
No.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes from council? Staff?
No.
Thank you. Delegation, Eclipse LLP, Jaron, Neufeld, and Marqus Dunaway in attendance to present to council the 2024 Auditor's Report. Welcome up to the delegation table. The floor is yours.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for having us here again this year, guys. My name's Jaron Neufeld, and I'm joined here by Marqus Dunaway. Marqus was the manager on your guys' file this year and has been for the last number of years. And he's actually going to be doing the presentation of your guys' auditor's report. So I'll turn it over to Marqus. So.
Yeah, as Jaron said, thank you everybody for having us here today. So our opinion, we have audited the financial statements of the District of Tumbler Ridge, which comprises the statement of financial position as at December 31st, 2024, and the statements of operations and accumulated surplus, change in net financial assets and cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes to the financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly, in all material respect, the financial position of the district as at December 31st, 2024. And as a result, it is operations and cash flows for the as a result of its operations and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. The basis for our opinion, we conduct our audit in accordance with the Canadian Generally Accepted Accounting or Auditing Standards. Our responsibility under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements sections of our audit report. We are independent of the district in accordance with the ethical requirements that are relevant to our audit of the financial statements in Canada, and we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with these requirements. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Responsibilities of management and those charged with governance for the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with public sector accounting standards, and for such internal controls as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the district's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing, as applicable, matters related to going concern, and using the going concern basis of accounting unless management either intends to liquidate the district or to cease operations, or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the district's financial reporting process. Auditor's responsibility for the audit of the financial statements. Our objectives are to obtain a reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. A reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with the Canadian generally accepted auditing standards will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these financial statements. As part of the audit, in accordance with the Canadian generally accepted auditing standards, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than for one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omission, misrepresentation, or the override of internal control. We also obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design an audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purposes of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the district's internal controls. We evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policy used and the reasonableness of estimates and related disclosures made by management. And we conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of the going concern basis of accounting, and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether a material uncertainty exists related to events or conditions that may cast significant doubt on the district's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our auditor's report to the related disclosure and the financial statements, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our auditor's report. However, future events or conditions may cause the district to cease or to continue as a going concern. Finally, we evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the financial statements, including the disclosure and whether the financial statements represents the underlying transactions and events in a manner that achieves fair presentation. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among other things, the planned scope and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal controls that we identify during our audit. So ultimately, overall, clean audit report, unchanged from prior years. And now I'd like to open up the floor for any potential questions that council may have at this time.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your presentation. I ask council if you're going to ask a question about a item within the report, state what page you're on, just so council can flip to make sure it's not going to be the same questions that come forward. So I'll open up questions to council. Councillor Julik.
So it's page 45 of our agenda, but page 14 of the report. Just so I'm just wanting to confirm, we no longer owe any money on the community center. I'm looking at that thinking that was a long-term debt.
Yes, all the long-term debts were repaid in the current, or in the 2024 fiscal year.
Okay, and then the building deposits, do we know what that was for? These are just things that pop up in yours, so that would be more of a CFO thing?
Building, yes. Yeah, I would
Okay.
go with Jaron and defer that.
Defer the details of that to the CFO. We don't have our file here to be able to give the details on that. So.
Okay.
Ms. Scott?
You're still looking at that on page 45?
Page 45 of the package, 14 of the report.
It'll just be page 45.
unless you want to take a stab at it, Marcus, based on your memory. So.
Sorry, I'm not seeing what you're referring to.
Just above, like, so number 8.
It's on number 8 there on page 45. Just says building deposits. 2024 was $188,380, and 2023 it was $184,189. If we don't have an answer, we can just circle that, just as I know we have a contractor right now.
Yeah, no, I will have to get back to you with that.
Okay. Anything
Okay.
else?
Then on page 46 of the package, 15 of the draft, so it lists asset retirement obligations, and I'm concerned about the numbers, and I'm wondering, just when I look at the numbers, I wonder if that's enough money for us to have put aside. And then, so we have an opening balance and then the accretion. Is that accretion? Do we do a percentage? Is that how we add that? So this is the asbestos removal, water well decommissioning, buried tank removal, and gravel pit reclamation. Do we just do, the accretion is just a percentage?
So it's, the accretion is a percentage each year. It's gonna grow over time to the estimated future value when it does need to be removed, for example, with the asbestos, on the estimated value at that time to remove it. So all these numbers will continue to grow over time, until, you know, that estimate is deemed to no longer be reasonable and needs to be reevaluated. It is an item that is to be looked at every year, but it does increase by a percentage each year.
And just a clarification on that, that's not necessarily money set aside, that's a payable in your guys' books. So that's something that you guys would need to be looking at potentially to be putting money aside to fund that in the future. That's why this section actually came into the handbook here 2 years ago, approximately, Marcus, I believe. And basically it's in order to allow you guys as the users of the financial statements to have that greater clarity around not only current obligations, but what may be arising, you know, down the road, so it doesn't necessarily come as a sticker shock, I guess, if you want to put it that way. You know, this is something that in international financial reporting standards, as well as a private enterprise and not-for-profit, has been dealt with previously, and this was just public sector essentially catching up to that because there was no mechanism to be recording that. The first stage of this actually occurred about 5 years ago when we dealt with contingent liabilities as it surrounded non-active assets, whereas asset retirement obligations is the final step in that process to basically bring in your active assets. So for example, like the building that we're in right now is considered an active asset. 5 years ago when contingent liabilities came out, this building would not have been considered in that. You know, something like an abandoned, you know, garbage dump would have been. And this is the final step in order to bring into things like this, say this building. Now, Tumblr's significantly newer than some of our older municipalities. So you can well imagine for some of those older ones, that could be quite a large amount to be there. Not saying that this isn't a large amount, it's just, you know, you guys are more limited just given that you aren't maybe necessarily dealing with as much asbestos as some of the older municipalities in the region, so.
So so when the first number, so you said this got started 5 years ago, where did the number come from that we started at? Like, so did somebody do an audit of what we had and then they did a percentage? We think this is how much?
Yes, so this standard came in effect for the asset retirement obligation in your guys' 2023 fiscal year. So actually last year was the first year to see it. And there was, you'll note on last year's statement, there was prior period adjustments and stuff like that to pick it up. Ultimately, I want to say Urban Systems was contracted to do an estimate of, you know, what asset retirement obligations existed at that time. On the date that they were contracted. So during the 2023 year, they would have done an estimate and came up with a number that they deemed to be, if you were to settle this today, this is how much it's going to cost you, for example, with the asbestos per foot to remove it. And then we had to take into account, okay, what down the road, when is this going to happen? Once again, it is an estimate, and then we have to figure out an interest rate to grow it over in the future to get to that value.
Good.
So then on page 17, we have the accumulated surplus, and then we have reserve funds set aside for specific purposes by council. So by my count, there's 19 pieces there. I guess for me, some of them I wonder about where they started, why they're still there maybe. And so I guess my question is this pretty standard within municipalities? Like, is this something we need to tighten up on a bit? Do you think? It seems like a lot for me.
In fairness, that's, ultimately up to your guys' direction. Would I say it's standard? Yeah, if you go and look at different municipalities, you can see even greater than that amount there. I've seen them where it's been, 2 or 3 pages. I've also seen it where it's been a lot less. So it really comes down to when you talk about tightening it up, cleaning it up, again, that's up to you guys. You guys look at it and go and say, do we actually need to have this money set aside? Can we change it, modify it, as part of our processes? That's not necessarily up for us to go and say, really, how far down do you want to break this cookie up, I guess, if you want to go and put it that way, to have pots of money set to aside. That's an individual municipality's decision.
Perfect.
And
I
a
got-
final one?
No, you got one more?
I have one more. So there were a lot of notes that you guys put in the letter. We had 17 recommendations. Is there any that stand out to you? Like, so I look at it and I go, okay, 17, that's a lot. And I recognize some of it is some HR things right now, just finding that CFO and stuff like that. So I guess, is there anything in there? I understand that you've put it in here, and I know that that's something we can work with Ms. Scott with. Is there something, though, that you think needs to be done, like PDQ?
Just reading through what Ms. Scott has put together there, I think she's got a good handle on it. When I look at it, it's really more, I guess, the culmination of just, turnover of the last 6 years, if I look at it from a high level, and trying to find stability through those positions will ultimately, lead to most of those disappearing. I think that, her plan of action looks quite reasonable, so.
Perfect, thanks.
Thanks. Anything else from council? Councillor Nobre?
Thank you, Mayor. I did have some questions regarding the recommendations, but they're for staff. Can I ask them this portion, or would you prefer 9?
Prefer when it comes up in 9.1.
Thank you.
I did ask Ms. Scott in regards to 1 because we were asking a question direct. When it comes to recommendations, that'll be a staff and not the delegation. Good? Okay, I have a couple. Why is the audit so delayed?
Again, I go back to that discussion around staff turnover. You guys did have a long-term staff member that left last year, and I think just, that transition led to a few delays. There was information that we weren't getting until May, June, July, August. It just took a while to basically get the final pieces in place in order to be able to issue an auditor's report, so.
So we're going to blame that on one position that left over a year ago, from your side?
I'm not blaming it on any one position. I'm just saying that, when you have a turnover in positions and that historical knowledge is lost, it can sometimes cause challenges. So.
Okay. The only reason I asked that question, I met with the auditors quite a while ago, as we were working through the process in regards to some of the recommendations. Obviously, there were some things that had been highlighted as we went through the process of the audit. And in my concept, I couldn't believe how long the audit took to get in front of council. From that point to today one, I've received demand letters from the province because we're that late. So, obviously, if we had a position that's open, it's probably still open, but to me, obviously, this council needs to understand that. And we need to start filling spots, figuring it out, help staff make sure they have the budget they need to make sure that they can move these processes that we need to make sure are done in a timely fashion. I too have the same comment in regards to 17 recommendations, definitely the highest one I've seen as an elected official. I think some of them are point specific. I don't want to get right into the meat and potatoes of them all, but I know staff has gone through them. I know I was fairly frank with Ms. Scott. As we were going through the process earlier, as I was learning some of the stuff, I did talk to the CEO right away because I think she needs to be aware of it. My comments would be, when were these recommendations revised? So what I'm asking is, when did we redo these recommendations? I'll give you an example. One of them would be wait for when a new CFO is hired for them to look through it. When was that revised compared to when it was drafted previous? When did we revise that comment?
Sorry, so the comment of waiting until a new CFO was appointed? So that recommendation isn't coming from us.
Okay,
That's staff's plan of action in regards to the control deficiency and recommendation that was noted.
okay. So then there was something else there previously and it was changed after the fact, or it never was there?
No, so this is staff's plan on how to so that is staff's report on how to
Okay.
deal with our letter of the control, I guess, again, weakness to meet the recommendation there, so.
Okay. So like, I'll use recommendation 10 as an example. This is something that was identified by the previous CFO during this audit process. A clear process will be developed and implemented with input from the new Director of Finance once hired. That's obviously from staff then, not from the auditor?
That's correct.
Okay, just wanted to, just because I read through all these, and to me, it just seemed like it was, after the fact, and I was just curious when it was changed, and I'll be honest, I was in and seeing the CEO, we didn't go through it thoroughly that day, but I appreciate that. Appreciate all the questions and comments made by Councillor Julich. So from your guys' side, it's a clear audit. Obviously, there's some concerns with some of the recommendations. Some of those recommendations are carried over from previous. Maybe wording changed a little bit compared to what it said in 2023. Can you tell us if those were also in 2022? Some of the same issues ongoing that have not been resolved. We have a new CAO here who's done a fantastic job working through the processes, in my opinion, fixing the stuff that hasn't been fixed. So to me, this is her first full year. So she wasn't here previously to the last audit. Obviously probably tried to work through some of it. She took on a big workload, in my opinion. Is there anything from 2022 that's still within these audits in 2024 in regards to recommendations?
We would need to go back and compare it to the 22 letter in that regards, so, yes.
I imagine Ms. Scott will be able to pull that, but I just think it's something to go back to. Again, I think we'll see some of this stuff come off for the 2025 audit. Like I said, she's done a fabulous job, in my opinion, as the mayor. And to see 17 recommendations is a fairly big number, so whatever we can do to assist her. All right, well, thank you very much. Anything else from council? All right, you're off.
Well, really appreciate it.
Thank you again very
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
coming up and doing the delegation.
Take care, guys.
You too. Okay, moving on, there was supposed to be Battered Women's Support Services, a delegation unable to make it tonight, so they'll reschedule with staff for another time. Consent agenda, take a recommendation, please. Councillor Noxana.
That the items in the November 3rd, 2025 consent agenda be moved for information.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Carried. Are there any items that council like to bring forward for discussion? Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. 7.7, Outdoor Recreation Council of BC for discussion.
Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that the DTR provide a letter of support for the ORC-BC feasibility study on outdoor recreation as a catalyst for rural BC economic diversification.
Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Any other items council would like to bring forward for discussion? Councillor Noxana.
Thank you. 7.8.
Sorry?
7.8.
Discussion, seconder. Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Noxana.
Thank you. Hope Air is also asking for a letter of support, and I am motioning that we provide that.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Just make a comment. I'm well aware of Hope Air. I'm well aware of the amount of residents from Tumble Ridge that have used Hope Air. A lot of times, obviously, it's with Air Canada or WestJet for tickets. But yeah, I think it's important to have within the region. We as a municipality fund it through the PRD through First Stars. We give money from First Stars to the PRD, and this will be something that I bring forward as a new business item for the PRD to look at. Maybe we need to do something else in the PRD as well. It's so important to have that for anybody that needs it. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Any other items council like to bring forward for discussion? I'd like to bring 7.3. Seconder, Councillor Noxana. All in favor? Carried. I don't think we need a motion or anything, but just so, I mean, it's obviously an agenda, but council should be aware that we're invited to attend the Remembrance Day ceremonies at the high school on November 10th. So if you can maybe advise myself or the CAO who can make it, just so we can send it in and that way the principal knows how many elected officials are attending. I think it's just appropriate. So you can either email myself, you can just email both myself and the CAO so we both have it. Okay, any other items council like to bring forward for discussion? Okay. Moving on to new business, 9.1, the 2024 audited financial statements, report dated November 3rd, 2025, from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding the 2024 audited financial statements. Recommendation, Councillor Noxana.
That the 2024 audited financial statements be approved as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so I did have some questions regarding the recommendations. I do see staff has responses, but I'm hoping for a little bit more elaboration, specifically on page 65, documentation of position changes. I'm not looking for specifics, as I realize that is not public information, but would we say this is isolated to a small number of incidences, or would we say it was like a larger systemic issue?
Ms. Scott.
It is not a large systemic issue. There was a couple of incidences.
Follow up.
Yes, then the next one I had is regarding on page 66, conflict of interest. I do see that there is a perceived conflict of interest. Could we get clarification if there is going to be an investigation into that?
Ms. Scott.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find which one you're talking about.
Page 66 at the top in regards to perceived conflict.
Recommendation 5.
Recommendation 5.
The title is Conflict of Interest, Disclosure and Determination Documents, page 3 of the ECLIPSE letter.
Okay, and sorry, what was your question about that one?
I'm just curious if there's an investigation ongoing? Or is there planned to be one?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Julik.
Thank you. I did ask some of these questions with Ms. Scott today. Going back to page 46 of the package, the payable on the books, that kind of shocked me a bit, because I thought, like, if we need to have money set aside for these things, this is not, like, so to me, this shows as a payable, and fair enough. I think, though, when I look at payables on our books, I'm thinking this is a 30-day thing. This isn't an ongoing, so I'm wondering if maybe we need to have a policy around this and maybe have it in reserved funds. I'm not sure. Like, I would just like some direction in that.
Ms. Scott.
It's something that would form, once we finalize that asset management plan, I think it's something that would be finalized in that asset management plan. And since we spoke this morning, I did find the spreadsheet. And so for each of those assets, it's got, you know, some of them have a lifespan of to 2058, some have a lifespan to 2050. And so that does give us several years to put some of that money aside for dealing with that asset when it is time to retire it.
Follow up?
I'm happy to hear that. I have some more questions.
Yep.
Okay, and so then on page 17, and you and I talked about this as well, this is more, like I said to you in the meeting, like to make sure that this doesn't fall off of our radar, all of these reserve funds, so I count 19 of them, and I'm understanding there's not a lot there, but to make sure that we have an idea of what that is, because these, so $25,000 or $25 million, pardon me, is sitting there, and I get the pavement and stuff like that. But there's COVID-19, and I understand those have been used. But the cemetery maintenance, for example, $5,300, that doesn't seem like enough to me. So I feel like that's something that we as council need to make sure that we stay on top of. And what I understood today, again, this would be on top, this would be part of this whole asset management kind of thing as staff gets, because that's a big project. And so that would be covered in that.
Yeah, so in these numbers, if when we go through our budget, it's actually within our budget sheets too, the same numbers. They're in there.
So
And
that-
you can see that, like you mentioned, the cemetery grew from 2023 to 2024. So previously, there was a big expansion done down at the
Yeah.
cemetery. So this is probably for maintenance of some of the new installs, but it actually grew because of being in a surplus situation.
Okay.
But it is in our budget documentation too.
So when we're doing the budget this year, I will be able to find that, and it will be able to, okay. And then my final thing is, we have, so the cemetery page 52 of the package. So when you see there, the cemetery perpetual care account, it shows on there 4,094, but then there's cemetery maintenance of 5,327. So those are two different funds, and what does that look like going forward? So from what I understand, the perpetual care account is basically to make sure that we're taking care of it all the time when somebody's got bought a plot and stuff like that. And fair enough, I just want to make sure we have money in there. My other question though is we have $2,206 from a challenge right in 1992. And so I'm like, and I get that, we've had lots of ins and outs, but when these numbers come, how do we get rid of them? Because I don't think we want to be carrying that on the books.
Yeah, I think staff needs to look into that one. Last year was in regards to our sledding group. There was some money in there in regards to a holdover that we accumulated, and so they just had to put in from their side of the DTR so it could be paid out. This may be something, I think just staff need to look into that. But that's how that, the snowmobile club was able, I can't remember that number exactly, I'd have to go back to my paperwork, but it came out in the audit too. It's just an account sitting there that nobody knew about, they just had to apply for it.
Okay.
This one here might be, again, staff just needs to look and see what the challenge was about.
And then finally, the 17 recommendations there, I appreciated that in the report that the CAO had gone through and addressed each item, because when you look into the financial statements from ECLIPSE, they're given in a generic way, and to me, this was staff's response of how we're gonna take care of this. And so I was wondering if there would be a time that we could revisit this to see where we're at. I don't know if we want to set a date. No, okay,
I think it just needs to be added to fuel.
okay.
I'd put that as a motion. That all 17 recommendations be added to fuel so we know where staff is on the completion. I mean, I don't want to set a timeline to staff for completion, where they list, I would think we would list all 17. We can list 1 to 17. And then as staff finishes them or something, they can advise us that 5 to 9 is done so far. As our CEO starts to fill staffing positions that are vacant, that's, how I read it, they'll get to them. But then we have a way back instead of listing them all or trying to make a meeting date to find out where our CAO is on 17 recommendation. We just listed it in the fuel, and she can just give us a general update here and there whenever she starts to complete them.
Perfect, so you said I need to make a motion for that?
I would.
I would like to make a motion that we add Sorry?
Yeah, it'll be after this motion. This one passes. There's one on the floor, so after the one on the floor passes,
Gotcha. 'Kay.
then we would do it.
Okay.
But that's how I would do it.
Awesome, thanks.
Anything else from council? Okay, let's make a couple comments. I appreciate, again, Ms. Scott, in regards to the recommendations compared to ECLIPSE and how that got there. I wanted to make sure it was your input and not filled out by the auditor. No disrespect to the auditors, I wanted to make sure it was coming from our CAO in regards to some of the ways of fixing these 17 recommendations. And again, I know this is, you've only been here a year, just over a year, I guess, but to me, a year. A lot of these recommendations were a carryover from the previous year that you have nothing to do well. I know that, 100%. To me, as you work through these, if you need more stuff from council, I would ask that you reach out to us. This is a fairly heavy loaded 17 recommendations. Has nothing to do, I believe, from your onboarding with the DTR. And I want to make that very clear, especially to the public, that this was a carryover from previous years, and obviously a few have been added throughout the year of issues that have arose. But to me, as from staff side, if you need anything, I would ask that you reach out to council as you work through the process of trying to make sure that we don't have 17 recommendations on the next audit, which is in 2025, which maybe we only have 14 because it's a short time. Our audit's supposed to have been done a long time ago, so that's why I asked in regards to the delay. Again, we have the province reaching out wanting to know why our audit hasn't been completed, and that has not to do with our CAO. It was the auditors and the CFO is my understanding, and being short in a few positions there. But I just want to thank staff for their input on the recommendations. Okay, going to call the question. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Julik.
I would like to make a motion that we add a line to our fuel list showing year-end recommendations 1 to 17.
Seconder. Councillor Norbury, discussion? Councillor Bertrand?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just, think we should clarify 2024 recommendations, just so we have a date on it.
Yeah, it can be added. Any other discussion from council? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Anything else in regards to the audited financial statements? Okay, moving on, costing for steep rock snow removal, report dated November 3rd, 2025, from the Director of Operations and Infrastructure regarding costing for steep rock snow removal. Recommendation, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move this for discussion.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana, all in favor? Carried. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for staff for putting this together. It is good to see that the offer for Steep Rock to purchase snow clearing after their events is still available for them. But I would repeat myself and what the delegation of Steep Rock said to us, in that Steep Rock is a bit of a unique situation. I can appreciate staff's comments regarding private property, but this is a little bit different than private property. It's an open air strata. There are roads inside this strata, not just parking lots. And for myself, it comes down to some of the primary objectives that the district provides for its residents: water, sewer, garbage, and in the north, snow removal. And these people do not have access to that like everybody else, their neighbors on Fellers or Willow. So I'm in support of adding them to the regular maintenance program. I did have a question for staff regarding the investigation they did. I did see they reached out to all other stratas. Did they reach out specifically to open air stratas similar to Steep Rock, like Trail Park, in their investigations?
Ms. Scott.
I reached out to fellow CAOs to see if they had similar stratas and what services they were providing.
Thank you. All the way?
Nope.
Okay. Councillor Julik.
This one's a tough one for me because I do see it as another part of our community with roads and all the other things. When I do some looking into what stratas are, they're basically private property. And that was brought up when we've had other meetings, we've had other questions in regards to that. There doesn't seem to be an answer to why the strata chose to go to a strata. And I'm not seeing the, like, so when I look up the benefits of strata, it talks about that you can pay for snow removal and stuff, so that if you go away, your snow's gonna be removed and all of that good stuff. But that means that you're on your own with it. It doesn't fall under the district to be part of that. So when council made the decision, when the 2019 council made the decision to stop doing the snow removal, there was a reason for that. And when you look at $5,000 per snow event, I feel like that's a fairly big chunk of change. I don't know what that would look like for each strata member if they had to pay that over and above their strata fees of right now. So I have a lot of empathy. I know what it would feel like for me if I was there. I just can't support this simply because of the way legislation and stuff is. I would want to know, if I lived in the strata, I would want to know why it was meant to go that way and what could we do about it, so that maybe we could go back to just being part of the district. But I don't know if that information is out there, and I don't know what it looks like. There is a strata act through the province, so it's provincial legislation. It's not something that the district has come up with. It's not our bylaw, it's provincial legislation. And so I feel a little bit like our hands are tied, because there are more than one stratas there are more stratas in our community. And if we do for one, I feel like the other stratas would want us to do for them, and that's pretty much what was referenced in this report. So I won't be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Noxana.
Thank you. This comes down to safety for me. We're talking about roads in our community in a time when we don't have emergency coverage at night and weekends. We're already adding an hour on to most people's trek to an emergency room, and this is an entire community with roads that may not regularly be cleared. I'm not talking about first priority on our list, but these should be included in our road clearing, whether it's for a fee or not. People will be responsible still for their driveways and their own piece of that, just like it is in the rest of the community, but we need to give the ambulances a fair chance to get to all of these properties. We all know how winter goes here. There's snow, and there's snow for a lot of months of the year. The strata in their presentation had said that they would pay for the coverage. They just want to be on the regular roster of clearing. I'm prepared to make a motion if nobody else has anything they wanted to add to it.
Understood. So for information, there's other people, so there's a couple for sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman, then Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it kind of sucks when legal and what you would want to kind of get in each other's way. I mean, there's nothing I heard that I'm against or disagree with. And no time is upon us. We don't have 6 months of going back and forth to make a decision here. And it seems to me that if we do this with for free for a strata, that we're going to get asked by other stratas. That's exactly what happened before. It'll likely happen again. And I don't want to step on Councillor Noxana's toes, but one of the ideas I want to put before is if we have a flat rate service contract for this year, it gives us some time to figure out a longer term solution. Still, it's a discussion, negotiation between council through staff and this area. The safety question is a question. I don't think we can pretend that it isn't one, especially if we end up falling behind and we end up with piles of snow if we have a bad run. But that's where I'm at. I would like to buy some time to actually see if there's a way to de-stratify if the residents are interested in de-stratifying. But I also I know we don't have the time to do that, which is why I'm kind of leaning to a flat rate contract for 1 year and give us some time. I'm not going to make a motion. I know that there's another one that's coming up, but that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Bertrand and myself.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not in support of adding Steep Rock to the regular winter maintenance program. The original motion back in 2019 was to offer, or not to continue offering free services. This is a strata, so it's private property. It is absolutely unique in every aspect, but it's still private property. And the reason the previous council discontinued the service was because that exact reason. It opens up the door for every single other private property in our community to ask for the same thing. We're not just talking about stratas here. I could ask for my driveway to be cleared. It's private property. It's the same thing. So I do have empathy as far as poor service in the past, but I would be in favor of offering the service for a fee, absolute cost recovery.
Thank you. Councillor Dussault.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what is being said, the private property. But there again, I have to agree with Councillor Noxana when it comes to safety and for ambulances getting in. And if we can, as Councillor Hoffman suggested, come up with a signed agreement at a cost, then I would support that. Yes, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Make a couple comments. I appreciate when community residents reach out, whether it's a stratas or residents in general. A couple concerns I see. One is, okay, we talked about safety. There's actually a policy that we could put into place, and that's to make sure that their roads are up to adequate for safety purposes. For ambulance or any emergency service getting into any strata or private business. So we talk about stratas. My biggest concern is other stratas coming on board wanting us to do apartment parking lots. Council nobody mentioned, oh, this is an open air one. Those are all after we do up to their property line, as we do for every resident in the community, as well as other stratas and private business up to the property line. I would be concerned that other stratas come forward. How do we do theirs? The other concern I would be is equipment. I would not think we would have enough equipment as we take on more and more stratas or more private businesses or residents. And this is nothing against Steve Brock. I appreciate them coming forward. We've looked at it. Staff has added it to be approximately $5,000 per snowfall. They did it by 10, could be 10 in 2 weeks, could be 10 in a week. My concern is how does that get added into our snow removal policy in regards to how it's ranked? When we talk about, our ER, I believe Councillor Noxana brought that up, is I would think our first thought and process as elected officials would be maybe we should have our airport as a priority, not private. To me, that seems like a concern. I believe it was raised at the Let's Talk as well as the airport. So that is my concern. I know that there is some private businesses within the community that do snow removal. I know at the delegation, the strata was reaching out to them or had some concerns, I believe, and I imagine they'll reach out if I say it the wrong way, but they did have concerns the way it was done previous years, or they couldn't handle it, they were not on time. But again, this is a strata, so my concern is if other stratas come on board, it states pretty much in the report we don't have enough equipment or labor. How much are we willing to add to the budget to cover that and to keep it the priorities that we have listed on our snow removal policy? The other concern I have is last year, and I don't know how many weeks it was done, but our grader was down at one point that we only had our sanding trucks and our front end loaders. If we sign to an agreement that we're going to have a certain level of service at a strata for snow removal and we can't hold our end because we have equipment failure, what does that look like for the municipality? Those would be my concerns. Again, I appreciate the organization reaching out. I've read through all this. I mean, to me, I'm not sure where their strata sits at in regards to fees. Are they charging enough so that they can offer the proper snow removal? Or is that something that their board would have to look at? I don't know, again, what they paid in previous years for snow removal is when we see a report from staff stating approximately $5,000 per snow removal, is that within their budget or not? And to me, when council sits here and we're going to negotiate a price, we don't even know where they sit. That would be my other concern. And I'll take the blame for not reaching out to him. I believe he's the president of the strata that was able to make sure he was aware that this was in the agenda for tonight. I made sure I reached out to them so that they could attend or at least Zoom in. But those would be my concerns, is I think we're opening up the municipality to other strata and private owners coming forward. And to me, how do you say yes to one and no to others? I think we set an example and a precedence moving forward if we start doing private property. So to me, stratas or private property. Councilor Nobre.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the comments regarding other stratas. You know, we can deal with those on a case-by-case basis. They do not have roads, they have parking lots. Big difference, in my opinion. We have hundreds of residents in that area that are, in my opinion, treated as second-class citizens because the roads aren't paved. I can appreciate where the conversation is going, yeah, I just think it needs to be said. You know, we need to advocate for these people, that they have the same road clearing as their neighbors on Fellers and Willow. Thanks.
No, thank you. Councilor Noxana and Councilor Julik.
I have a motion, so if Councillor Jutlik wants to have a comment first,
Okay, thank you.
let's circle back.
I just wanted to, thanks for that, Councillor Noxana. I just wanted to respond to Mayor Kakauka's discussion about us doing the work and then we're charging for it. I feel like then we also are competing with private business. Like at that point, then we are, we're taking work away, and that's not our job. Like as a district, the strata would be able to come back and say, well, I'll pay you $5,000, but only if you did this, because they weren't happy with one way or the other. And I'm looking at the folks in the.
I would look
in
at the
the
folks, they don't get this, they don't, the only bad thing is they don't get to comment till the end.
Yes,
And I think it's
no,
unfair.
fair enough. And so I think that we're walking a slippery slope there as well. I appreciate when you talk about us doing it, and then if we did it on a case-by-case basis, then we would still be in the same position. We would be, this is work that there's private businesses that actually do this work, and so that would be part of my concern as well.
Thanks. Councilor Noxana for the motion. Sorry, Councilor Nobre.
Thank you.
Moving it forward.
I would like to make a motion that we ask staff to negotiate with the board of the Steep Rock Strata a cost for the required service, that could include sanding, snow pile removal, whatever, with the understanding that this will be a lower priority. Snow removal will be on streets only, not parking lots or laneways, and staff will ensure a plan with the strata that vehicles will not be parked on roadways while snow clearing is going on.
Thank you.
I
Seconder?
can email that to staff.
Perfect. Seconder? Councilor Bertrand? Discussion? Did you want to jump in now? No? Councilor Bertrand?
Just for clarification, Councilor Noxana, so the motion is reading to ask staff to negotiate a rate for snow clearing. Are you looking for cost recovery, or are you looking for a discounted rate? We do have estimates in the report. I'm just curious if you're looking for full recovery or discounted rate, because when we ask staff to negotiate, we should probably give a little bit of guidance there.
Councilor Noxana?
Thank you. Basically negotiating a rate because I'm not sure what level of service is needed. If sanding is needed and snow pile removal is needed, the rate would be different, but I think we would have to remain cost neutral in this.
You good, Councilor Bertrand?
Yep, thank you.
Councilor Julik?
I appreciate the comments made about a timeline and we're, getting into possible snow season. I'd want to see a timeline on this. Like, I can see us like bridging a gap for maybe a season. I could be in support of that as long as it was cost recovery. The report talks about the report talks about the pot that we could do it, but that means that it's going to affect other places within the community. And so that's also another one of my concerns for the places that are not a strata. And what does that look like, as Mayor Kakauka talked about, if we have equipment down, and that kind of thing. I was trying to find it here in the report. So yeah, will providing snow clearing in Seabrook have any operational impacts on other departments? Yep. Typically, bylaw enforcement provides assistance in removing vehicles from the road prior to snow removal. Corporate department would be involved, finance department would be involved, and then obviously public works. So this isn't just a one-off, this isn't just us saying, okay, to the plow truck driver, yeah, go ahead and go through Steep Rock. So I wouldn't be in favor of this to be ongoing. And it would, my concern is okay, this is an estimated cost. What if it's more? What if it's less? If we enter into this agreement, then we're tied to the agreement. So it's still really shaky ground for me, again, because of the private property. I empathize with the strata. It is what it is, though. This is, like, we can't get away from the fact that it's private property.
Thank you. Ms. Scott?
I believe that the Director of Operations has some relevant information that may help council while making this decision as well. So I would like to ask Director Bradley to provide that additional information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott, Mayor and Council. Yes, okay, so for the snow clearing, it takes us 3 days currently to remove all snow in town. That's all of our high priorities, all the way down to low priority. It takes 3 days. This would then be added to the list. One thing I will state in here is these prices that we have in here, they come from a blue book that we are given annually from the province for equipment rates. Also, we have to follow the collective agreement. So the wage amounts that are in here are reflective of the collective agreement. This is just to remove snow. And when we do get out in the morning, the plow truck does go through because that's our first opening for access. We're also laying sand for safety. And in doing so, when we lay sand within Steep Rock, these costs here do not reflect what springtime brings. Then we have to run the sweeper through there. We have to do maintenance in there to remove all of the debris. We have to make sure that we get rid of all the snow because, as Steep Rock knows, there are issues with areas that freeze as thaw happens and in their drainage. So, I mean, we're aware of some of the issues that go on in there. This is just to remove snow. This doesn't include all of the costing that follows that, including spring maintenance. So just to let you know, currently at this point, it takes us 3 days to do the snow clearing that we do now. And then Steep Rock will be added to that.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman and Councillor Noxana.
Thank you, Mayor. I was actually thinking discount in my own mind, but I see that that's not going to go that direction. Since we can't have them speak tonight, I would like to put it in their court, and I think that's a negotiation. So I am going to support this motion, imperfect as it is, and go from there. I think we have a problem, and not dealing with it is not going to make it any better. In fact, it's going to make it worse for Steep Rock. I would like to buy them the time for this season, and for a 1 year negotiating on these grounds, I would like to give them that chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Noxana, then Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you. I wanted to speak to some of the concerns about things like bylaw and equipment. I did include, not bylaw in my motion, but just one of the biggest things bylaw does for snow clearing in my eyes is ensuring that there's no cars on the street and going around and reminding people to move them. And that is captured in the motion, that is worked out with the strata, that there can't be vehicles on the road. The other issue, if there's equipment down, we're all in the same boat. My street's not gonna get plowed either. Public Works has been pretty good at fixing equipment as it goes down, and there's always gonna be issues because it's equipment and it gets used all winter. But I don't think the strata is looking for same-day service with us hiring contractors. They're just looking for the same level that everybody else in town is getting if they don't live in a strata, streets only.
Thank you. Councillor Bertrand.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Noxana. You got me thinking there. Appreciate your comments. I just have a comment, Mayor, probably for staff. I'm not sure if you can answer this or not. I know with the community charter, we're not allowed to assist business, but just thinking on the aspect of competing with contractors, is there anything in the community charter that doesn't allow us to do that?
Ms. Scott?
No.
Thank you. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas I support different direction we're going, I think when it comes to debating, getting into the realm of businesses, ultimately it's the choice of the steep rock strata. We're not saying that they have to or they don't have to. We're just offering a choice, and I don't see how that is competing with business. We have a lot of other considerations that we have to account for when it comes to costing, and businesses, they can make different rates. Thanks.
Thanks. Any other discussion? Going to make a couple comments. So again, I appreciate everybody's discussion in regards to council. I won't be supporting the motion on the floor. Again, I've really focused, and I believe council has, in regards to supporting business. We have multiple business outlets. I reached out to a few myself today in regards to snow removal. To me, I need to make sure that we're supporting those organizations. The other concern I have is when it comes to private property or stratas being done, what's the accountability or liability to the district in regards to damage on private property? So right now, when we do snow removal, it's district-owned infrastructure. The sidewalks are the districts, the streets are the districts. They're not doing my personal driveway. That is my concern. It has nothing against the strata. I mean, again, I appreciate them coming forward, but that is my concern, is private property damage that could happen within that strata if, as the negotiations go forward. Again, I'll make the comment, I think, and Councilor Norbury understood, you said, well, let them all come in and start talking to council about other stratas or other private business owners coming forward for snow removal. Again, I think we're setting the precedents that we're going to just do them as this moves forward, and I think that could end up costing the taxpayers more than we think. When I read the reporting in regards to staffing, equipment, that we may not have enough equipment. We definitely don't have enough staff as we take on more snow removal for private. So those would be my concerns. Appreciate the debate. I think we had a great debate by council, but I won't be supporting the motion on the floor. Okay, going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, opposed is Councilor Bertrand, Councilor Julick, and Mayor. Motion carries. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in regards to this item, I have talked with many people in the strata. I know some people are thinking about maybe it's time to declassify the strata or dissolve the strata. My recommendation to them would be investigate it. I can recognize the desire to have a strata. Normally, it's to add services to the community. You charge for it. But if this is something that the organization is not happy with, I would suggest to them to investigate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to, actually, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. Apologize to council, but I need to take a 5-minute recess. Can you remind? NDIT grant application support for 2026 Business Facade Improvement Program. Report dated November 3rd, 2025 from the Director of Economic and Community Development regarding the grant application support for the 2026 Business Facade Improvement Program. Recommendation, Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor, that council approves the grant application by resolution for the Business Facade Improvement Program through the NDIT for up to $20,000.
Seconder, Councilor Bertrand. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. The Para Cup hockey sponsorship tickets, report dated November 3rd, 2025, from the manager of the Recreation regarding Para Cup hockey sponsorship tickets. Recommendation, Councilor Noxana.
The council approves an increase in funds in the amount of $550 from the council initiatives budget to cover the cost for an additional trip for the charter bus to transport local residents to Dawson Creek on November 30th, 2025 to watch the game 1 and game 2 of the Para Cup.
Seconder, Councilor Dussault. Discussion. Councilor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a little bit of confusion, I guess. So this seems to be a scheduling issue as far as the busing goes. I don't understand, like, the original quote was for 2 hockey games. So now that we know that, was it just that we didn't know the times of the games previously? Is that when the initial quote came, and now that we know the times, they knew they had to do another one?
Yeah, I'm assuming, like staff answered, but my assumption is they thought game 1 and 2 would more or less be back-to-back, so they would go in, do it, then come back, not go in, drop residents off, come back to Tumbler, go back to pick up those residents, come back to Tumbler. I think that's the difference. But Ms. Scott? That's my understanding when I read it.
Yes, we didn't know the times of the games when we were looking at the amount of bus trips, so it was based on, we knew there was 2 games, so it was based on a there and back, but with the way the times are in the games, there's gonna have to be an additional there and back. So, yes, it has to do with when we got the quote, we didn't know the times of the games and just assumed we could do a there, back, and can't.
Follow up?
Please, so $550, that's pretty cheap as far as adding another trip onto there. So I'm just wondering, you know, if it's $550 a trip, why are we paying $5,200 for 2 trips?
I think it's $550 to add the 1 trip in that goes back. So previously, like in the schedule below, they're gonna go in and drop residents off. That bus is coming back with nobody on board. Empty bus. Right, and then it's returning back to Dawson at 3 o'clock to drop off people for the 6 o'clock game, as well as pick up the 4:30 game, or the 2 o'clock game, because the game will be over. Those people return to Tumbler Ridge, and then the bus has to go back down to pick up from game 2 to bring them home. So they're adding that 1 trip on. Not like, because they previously planned to go back, but not probably come back one time. They're probably gonna stay there, but couldn't. This is my understanding is how I read it, but
Yeah.
Ms. Scott? That's kind of how I read it.
And some of the 5,200 cost originally, because the buses are coming from Grand Prairie. We had tried to get buses locally. Grand Prairie was the one that quoted, so part of that initial large cost is them to come from Grand Prairie.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, you good? Any other discussion from council? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Councilor Julick's opposed, motion carries. Schedule of meetings. Anything from council? Make a comment. Looks like we do have a meeting with the Northern Health Board on December 8th. It'll be at 8 in the morning till 9. Travel to Prince George will be on the 7th. Please email myself and the CEO, whoever's attending, so that we can advise what we need for vehicles with executive assistant and hotel rooms. With that being said, for December, I'm going to make a motion that we cancel the meeting, the Policies and Priorities Committee meeting on December 8th, but reschedule it for December 9th. If I can get a seconder. Councillor Noxana. Discussion, just comment, our meeting's done fairly early. We should be done around 9, between 9:30 and that in Prince George. But again, we're not 100% that confirmed on that. It's the traveling back, so people don't have to rush back here if we have bad roads. So I don't think we should be rushing back for a PMP meeting. That's why I'm recommending that we move it to the Tuesday. One, I think it's, then we're not rushing back if it is bad weather, but it gives opportunity for staff to get back into the office as well, as our CO will be attending with us that day. Any other discussion in regards to canceling the meeting on the 8th, but moving it to the 9th? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, any other schedule of meetings for council? Okay, just remember on the 10th, if you want to add it into your own calendar in regards to the Remembrance Day ceremony at the high school. Lots of time yet to plan, but the mayor's food drive is scheduled for the 26th of November. So if you can add that into your schedule. Okay, anything from your side, Ms. Scott? Thank you. Okay, anything from council? Okay. 9.6 is the locum dinners report to be added. So it was added under 9.6. Take the recommendation, Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. The council authorizes the use of the Healthcare Task Force Recruitment and Retention Budget to invite locums and their families to supper with elected officials and up to 2 community members serving as ambassadors.
Seconder, Councilor Noxana, discussion. Go ahead, Councilor Bertrand, or sorry, Councilor Norbury. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so thanks for getting us on the agenda so quickly from our meeting on Thursday. You know, one of the things we were talking about was locums coming to our community. We had scheduled, there are 3 scheduled coming. And I asked, you know, our advisor, Dr. Helm at that time, and the table, if they felt that it was an important thing to offer these healthcare professionals. At that table, everyone agreed that it was a great idea to take them out. If we could find out their interests, we could invite people of a similar interest so that they can come out and they could meet them and potentially create inroads in the community. One of the, the biggest indicator for recruitment and retention is according to the Recruitment and Retention Committee I sit on in Dawson Creek, talks about social connection and adhesion in a community, not just for the doctor themselves, but for their families. Now, if you can assist them in that way, they're more likely to stay. And they themselves have said that is the reason why. Number 1. Number 2 is daycare, housing. That stuff can get worked out. But connection and adhesion in the community, incredibly important. This gives us that opportunity to do that. I believe there's some questions in the recommendation that they're asking for. I apologize. My language sometimes can be too informal. Staff did capture it correctly in that my intention was a hosted meal, not taking them out to an activity. And when it comes to who we should be inviting them to dinner, if we want to put a limit on it, I would not, because sometimes in my experience with the locum house in Dawson Creek, they'll come with their spouse, maybe their couple of kids. And I would hate to decline them coming, because then again, that sets a bad example for us in regards to, well, you're welcome, but you're not your kids, even though you are a family unit. And then I would ask staff organize that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Julik.
I just wanted some clarification, testing my memory. So this will be coming from the $10,000 allotment that we had assigned to the Healthcare Task Force?
Correct.
Okay. And the other question, sorry, those monies can only ever be used if it's been approved by council?
That's why this is in front of council.
Okay,
So it won't be for every, so the reason is, my understanding
Yeah.
is this, once this is approved, it's not every time that a locum comes that we'll be coming to look. This is approving for this to happen.
For every locum, okay, and then once we got to the $10,000 budget, we would like.
If they're close to their budget, they're gonna have to come in and look for more.
Okay.
Yep. Hope that answers that. Answers that?
Yeah.
Councillor Noxana?
Thank you. I'm obviously in favor of this motion, but it does sort of fill that gap where locums are coming to our community and they don't know anybody. They don't know what to do. They might be interested in Tumbler Ridge because they like dinosaurs or hiking or skidooing, but where do you turn when you're here for a few weeks to really find out what the locals like about the community? And we're going to be relying on these locums for probably a few years, and we want them to continue to come back. So having that attachment piece to the community is a great way for them to say, like, oh yeah, I really wanted to do that hike that so-and-so talked about. Next time I'm there, I'm going to make sure. And the same for their family. If their families love being here, that's great for us. It's another egg in our basket. So I'm definitely in favor of this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm 100% in favor of this. I think this is the exact right mindset going forward. The connection to them from elected and health specialists, and the ability to give some recommendations. Hopefully ambassadors come forward. But I think we can start to see like an interest list of who is interested in to having newcomers, maybe not even doctors specifically or locums specifically, but just we know who's interested and who's interested in being a welcoming ambassador. And if we have new people in town, I think that's a great resource that we can use to integrate people quickly and have expanded interest. So not looking to expand this at this point in time, not looking to have a dinner with everybody that comes to town, but just the idea that we have people that want to be ambassadors and want to promote our town to locums and anybody else. I think this is a great starting point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion or comments by council? I'll make a couple. My understanding of the community ambassadors would be once we connect with the locum, find out what his likes or her likes is or their likes are, that would connect them with the proper ambassador. And my understanding from the motion from the Health Task Force, that could be a representative from the museum or a representative from the Lions Club. So again, I listened to some of the organizations that attend this Health Task Force, and to hear from the PCN and to hear that we have a locum that is a fourth opportunity that has come to our community and doesn't feel attached. I think I heard bored. He finds himself bored. That was concerning to me. That right now that is one way of keeping our primary care open within our community is going to be locums at this time. So we need to connect with those locums that are coming to our community, find out what their likes are, so that we can make sure they're being set up with the right people, so that they can feel that they can be attached to our community. I think this is a great opportunity, and I do believe I do a great job for council as a whole when I see something, whether that's a notice of motion that is maybe going to get put forward to council or talked about. And to me, it's something like this. When this came up, I thought this is an important thing to have on the agenda immediately. I'll be honest, I tried to add the agenda before the agenda was set out, because I think that's how important this motion was that came from that committee. And it's no different than when other council talk about things. If I think that that's what council scope is, I try to add it right away. I want to make sure council's aware of that. It's not just for the Health Task Force. But to me, when I heard it loud and clear from the groups that attend that this locum felt unattached or that, we've missed something. When we have doctors possibly coming to our community, and they do go not just our community, go to other communities as well, but we do everything. We take them for dinner, we take them on helicopter trips, riverboat trips, whatever. We want to dine them, we call it. But we're not doing the same thing for our locums. So I think as we see us with the recruitment going forward, maybe from Northern Health side, or as we may get involved to look at recruitment, we're going to have more opportunities that we're going to have to do this. So I just want to make sure council's aware of it. I think we've heard it loud and clear from our community in regards to making sure we have doctors. So we can get primary care open with less wait time for a regular doctor's appointment. But as, to me, primary care is filled, that also opens up our after-hours ER, which to me seems to be a focus. So I'll be supporting it. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Any notices of motion? Councillor Dussault?
Yes, I have a couple. My first notice of motion is I would like to know if we could bring forward acknowledgement for birthdays, anniversaries, that sort of thing. It was done in the past. If I have given staff a name to reach out to find out when this happened, when it took place, how long it lasted for, to see if that could be done.
Okay, so do you know if staff had an opportunity to see if there's a policy on this?
Is there a policy on this?
No, did you ask staff?
I did ask
Okay,
staff
good
and
enough.
could not find a
Okay.
policy.
Okay, thanks. Okay,
Okay, and then my second one is to ask staff, if they can find out what it would take to have a rage room. What the liabilities would be, what the cost would be, where possibly it could be set up. If nobody has ever heard, as everybody, I don't know if everybody.
that'll come up when it comes forward.
Okay.
Then you get to discuss it.
So, yeah, I would just like to know if they could look into that and find out what the legalities and everything would be on a rage room.
Perfect, thank you. Any other notice of motions from council? Okay. Notice of motion, grant and aid and fee for service at the October 6, 2025 regular meeting of council. Mayor Calca brought forward the following notice of motion. The council re-examines the timeline and date for grant and aid and fee for services for 2026. Seconder. Councillor Norberry, discussion. I'll just start it off. I've heard it loud and clear from quite a few organizations. One, that we expect to be open and moving and supporting all the tourism and stuff throughout the summer, that maybe we did some injustice by setting a date that was in the summertime. I don't think we need to go back to a date that we had previously, which, it was supposed to be this date in January, but got carried on to February, sometimes in March. My comments would be, if council agrees to it, that we put it as December 1st is the deadline date for grant and aids or fee for service. That gives us plenty of time to discuss it in budget. That gives us lots of time to discuss that within our budgets. Councilor Norberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I fully support the recommendation on the floor. I can appreciate that we asked, well, I don't know if we asked, but it was implied that for our grant and our fee-for-service organizations, give it a try, please. This is something that our administration is looking for to help with their timelines and their workload. But realistically, I think we do need to go back to who we are servicing in our community. And we are servicing the people who these organizations serve. And in August, 7 months into the year, 8 months into the year, it is pretty challenging for them to put forward a budget, especially during the busiest times of the years. So I would like to see it pushed back. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Jilek.
Just confirming you wanted to have it for December, I guess for me, I would ask staff what works best for them when they're trying to put together budget stuff for us. We're going to start the budget stuff in October. I don't think November would even be, like they're working on their own budgets. I guess for me, I'd rather have it a little bit earlier. I absolutely appreciate your reasoning for bringing it forward, though. But I just didn't know if you're going to be stuck on that date or if we're giving it to staff to come back and give us a date.
Yeah, no, there's no date attached to this, so it'll be coming back from staff. I'll be honest, no disrespect to staff. That's why we said it in August, because it came from staff.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to attach the date, because again, I think we've done injustice. Listening to some of the organizations that threw their grant and aid requests, just threw them together, may miss some things, maybe not gonna have enough money maybe for 2026 because of it. That's concerning. That's why. So the date actually came from staff with very little input from council. So maybe I'll go to the CEO. I'd like to hear from her comments, and I've had this discussion with our CEO. I didn't bring it just forward without it. But to see their comments as well, because I think it has to work for both. It has to work for council's debate and how we support our non-for-profits, but it also has to work for staff as they fit it within their budget schedules to make sure that it comes at that time, the right time for them as well. So I don't disagree with you, Councilor Jilek. Ms. Scott?
I think that's something that I would want to make sure that I discussed with the finance team and with the CFO and what all work is involved for them once they receive those applications and then what's needed to incorporate that into the financial plan. And it's probably something that we also consider when we're coming up with our budget calendar, budget timeline too, so.
Yep, appreciate that. So like I said, this is just for staff to look for 2026. So, obviously, right now, our policy is that not-for-profits applying for grant and aid would have to have it in August. And we have lots of time to change that date to meet the requirements. And I don't think staff, it'll come forward when staff has an opportunity. Again, I don't put a timeline to it. Okay, any other discussion from council? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, councilor's business. Anything from the floor? Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Yeah, from the Health Task Force. Yeah, so, realistically, we are still talking about, non-ER situations as they arise. I wanted to give council an update is that there were 3 locums scheduled for this month to be coming. So we have 1 locum for the entire, 3 locums covering the entirety of the month. Exciting stuff. I did specifically ask, what does that mean for ER? And they were not able to give us a response, what that means. So realistically, it is what it is. It is unfortunate, but I wanted to update council that they are hosting interviews with potential doctors from out of country, which they're looking for residents to, community members to sit in on, which I'll be a part of. So I'm excited about that opportunity, but realistically, we'll be looking at 27. Because they would need to come, they would need to do the residency, they need to pass their exams to make sure that they fit the criteria of Canadian medicine. But still, we're still looking for that. Ultimately, I think the goal would be to have a doctor hired locally tomorrow, but it's still good to see that they're planning for the future, and if it's a good fit. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Dussault?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My reports are coming. I apologize for the lateness. I also attended the huge collection up at the museum this past week, and that was really cool to see their new piece that they have. It's very nice. And also TR Cares had their AGM, and they have a new board.
Perfect. Anything else from council off the floor? Councilor Bertrand?
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended the museum's heavy collections debut. Very long project that's finally been wrapped up, and it looks fantastic. I'd like to thank the project manager for all of her efforts, and the executive director as well. And also, I wanted to thank DTR staff for the excellent job that they did in assisting them to empty, but also put the specimens back into the building. So job well done by everybody, and the amount of room that's in there for more is incredible. So it's really, really nice to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from council? Okay, I had fairly slow weeks. Did attend Let's Talk. I thought it was well done by staff having everything in front of us, as well as the amount of residents that showed up with questions. Majority of the questions were, to me, health-related. Majority of the night was health-related. Again, I'll mention it there. I mentioned it there, and I'll mention it here. Northern Health was invited. Northern Health declined to send any representation to Let's Talk at this time. I know I do have a meeting set up for early November with Lisa Zenta, but my understanding from the online post from Northern Health is they're looking at reaching back out to the community sometime here in November. It sounds like the same kind of concept, roundtable organizational discussion items. I haven't heard anything different in regards to after hours ER, whether that was at the Health Task Force meeting or other meetings I've attended. I do have ministry looking into some different solutions, just awaiting from Ms. Osborne's staff to reach back out. I imagine we'll hear sometime this week on some of the questions I put forward to the ministry, and then I'll just keep council updated in regards to what I hear. Other than that, I had it pretty quiet. I did attend the trunk or treat. Didn't really do the haunted house thing. I did not do the pumpkin patch. I hope somebody went out to that. And I did not attend the museum. I'm only doing so much throughout the week. So other than that, that's it for me. Take question and answer period from anything. Oh, sorry, Councilor Norbury. Okay. Any emailed in questions, Ms. Scott?
No.
Thank you. Take adjournment. Councilor Noxena.
That the November 3rd, 2025 regular council meeting be adjourned.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman, all in favor? Carried.
If you're doing it there, you just